The first time I met my girlfriend's aunt, my whole body went cold before I even remembered why. I was standing in a crowded backyard with a paper plate in one hand and a plastic cup in the other, when a woman stepped out through the sliding glass door, carrying a tray of hot dogs for the kids. She looked at me once, stopped walking, and nearly dropped the tray. I think I went just as white, because for a second, the noise of that birthday party went flat in my ears. My girlfriend was beside me, smiling, reaching for my arm so she could introduce us, and all I could think was that fate had put me face to face with the one person from my past who could wreck everything. Her name was Melissa. 15 years earlier, I had lived with her like husband and wife. At the time, I still did not understand how fast one ugly coincidence could spread through a family and make the woman I loved look at me like I had dragged some stain into her life. I only knew I was already in deep with her niece, and the look on Melissa's face told me my past had just stepped into the middle of my future. My name is Eddie. I was 41 when this happened, and until that spring, my life had gotten small in a way that felt safe. I worked in the accounting department of a logistics company downtown. My days were invoices, spreadsheets, stale coffee, and the same beige hallway I walked 4 or 5 times a day. I lived alone in a studio apartment on the east side, not much bigger than a motel room if I was being honest, but it was clean, quiet, and mine. I had lived with a woman once before, years back, and after that ended, I got cautious. I had 2 relationships after her, neither one lasting, and by the time I hit my early 40s, I had stopped expecting much. I was not bitter, just settled. Work, rent, laundry, takeout, TV at night. That was my life. Then I started noticing her at the far end of the hallway. She worked in another accounting office on the same floor, past the copy room and almost all the way to the corner windows. The first thing I noticed was her smile. Not in some flashy way. It was more that her whole face changed when she smiled, like she forgot to guard herself. We would pass each other in the hallway, or stand near each other waiting for the elevator, and say the usual things people say when they are still pretending they are strangers. Still, I noticed her more than I should have. The way she tucked loose hair behind her ear when she was listening, the way she always carried too many folders, the way she was polite even when she looked tired. There are people you can tell are nice because they perform it. She did not. It just came out naturally. I kept my distance because I knew nothing about her. She could have had a boyfriend, a fiancé, a whole life waiting outside that building. I was not going to embarrass myself based on a few elevator conversations and a pretty smile. Then one rainy Tuesday at lunch, we got into the elevator alone. The weather had been ugly all morning, real spring rain, heavy enough to blur the windows and flood the curb. She stepped in right before the doors closed, shook a little water from her umbrella, smiled at me, and said she hoped it had finally let up because she was tired of feeling trapped in the building. I said I hoped so too, then asked where she usually went for lunch. She told me about a little diner 5 blocks away. Cheap, good food, quick service, and they took every meal card under the sun, which mattered to her. I said I had been thinking about switching places anyway, and she looked at me for half a second like she was deciding something, then said she was headed there now if I wanted to see it. That was how it started. By then, the rain had stopped. The sidewalks were still wet while we walked. She told me her name was Lily. She was 23 in her 2nd year of college studying accounting and still lived with her parents and younger sister on the south side. I told her my name, and the second she asked if I had anybody, I said no a little too quickly. Then I asked the same question back. She said she was single, not casually, not like it was a line, just simple and direct. She had not dated anybody seriously in a while. When she said it, she gave me this small smile that got under my skin in a way I was not ready for. I was older than she was by a lot, 18 years. I knew that immediately. Some women like older men, some do not. Still, I could not help wondering which kind she was. We talked through lunch and almost the whole walk back. She was from a small town originally. Her family had moved to Indianapolis about 6 years earlier. I could hear it in her voice a little, something softer in the way she said certain words, and I liked it. She was smart without making a show of it, funny in a quiet way, and easy to talk to. After that, one lunch turned into many. At least 3 times a week, sometimes more, we ended up walking to the same diner together. It became natural fast. We would leave around the same time, talk about work, her classes, my boss, her parents, stupid little things from the building. I found out she hated mushrooms, loved old R&B songs because of her dad, and had a habit of twisting her straw wrapper into a tight little knot when she was thinking. I told her about my apartment, about the 2 failed relationships that came after the woman I once lived with, about learning too late that living peacefully and living happily were not always the same thing. Every time I learned something new about her, I liked her more. She could laugh at herself. She listened when you spoke. She was the kind of person who drew attention without treating herself like the center of the room. One Thursday, she mentioned her evening class had been cancelled. We were halfway through lunch, and I do not know what came over me. Maybe the feeling that if I waited any longer, I would lose my chance because I was scared of hearing no. So I asked her if she wanted to go out after work and grab a drink. Instead, she made a face I could not read at first, almost shy, then smiled and said yes. She said whoever got off first could wait by the main entrance downstairs. I nodded like it was normal, but my heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. We went to a bar a couple blocks away, one of those places with dark wood and low music. From the moment we sat down, the whole thing felt different than lunch. There is a point when 2 people stop pretending they are just being friendly. You can feel it before either one says anything. I told her I had wanted to ask her out for a while. She smiled over her drink and asked what had taken me so long. I said I had been waiting. That made her laugh, but not in a mocking way. More like she knew exactly what I meant and had been waiting too. After that, whatever distance had been left between us was gone. It was in the way she held my gaze a second longer than before, in the way neither of us mentioned the time until it had gotten late enough to matter. When I leaned in to kiss her, I did it slowly because I did not want to ruin something I had wanted for weeks. But the second it happened, I knew I had not misread a thing. She kissed me back like she had already decided. There were people all over that place, but it felt like everybody else had stepped away from our table. By the time I dropped her at a bus stop near the transit center, I was done for. I offered to take her home, but she said it was a quick ride and laughed that I did not need to act like she was made of glass. Then she kissed me again before she got on the bus, and that was it. After that night, she took over my head in a way I had not felt in years. The next day we were together again at lunch. A few days later I drove her to class so we could steal another half hour together. Then we started spending more evenings together, first casually, then in a way that was no longer casual at all. At the beginning we never really named it. That lasted until the truth got obvious enough that pretending would have become its own lie. We talked one night after dinner, sitting in my car outside her parents' house. She said she did not want to keep acting like this was nothing. I told her it was not nothing to me either. That was how we became a couple. I cannot overstate how happy I was. By then I was fully in. I thought about her all day. My apartment, which had felt practical and quiet for years, started feeling temporary, like a waiting room I had somehow mistaken for a life. She made ordinary things feel less grey. A few months later I met her family. I had worried about it more than I let her see. The age difference was there whether anybody said it or not. But her parents were kinder than I expected. Her father was quiet, asked direct questions, watched me closely at first, then loosened up by dessert. Her mother was warmer, talkative, and clearly protective of Lily without being rude about it. Her younger sister started teasing us almost immediately, which I took as a good sign. Nobody looked at me like I was some creep trying to sneak into their family. I left that house relieved. For a while, everything just kept getting better. Then, around 6 or 7 months in, Lily invited me to her cousin's 4th birthday party. It was on a Sunday afternoon at her aunt's house in a neighborhood not far from where her parents lived. I remember asking which aunt, and she just said her Aunt Melissa, like the name should have meant something to me. It did not. Melissa is a common name. That afternoon I drove over feeling normal, relaxed even. I brought a gift for the little boy, wore a button-down instead of a t-shirt because I wanted to make a good impression, and followed Lily up the walkway carrying a cake tray her mother had sent along. There were balloons tied to the mailbox. Kids were yelling in the backyard. Somebody had music playing in the kitchen. I barely knew anyone there. I was standing near the patio door waiting to be introduced around when it happened. A woman came out from inside carrying food, glanced up and stopped dead. I knew her instantly. Not because she looked the same. She did not. 15 years changes everybody, but some people you know in a way that bypasses time. Recognition hit before thought did. Melissa, my ex, the woman I had once shared rent, groceries, bed sheets, and 2 full years of my life with. My hand actually shook. Lily was smiling, completely unaware, stepping closer so she could do the introduction, and I remember thinking I had maybe 3 seconds to decide whether I was about to lie, freeze, or somehow disappear. I did none of those things because I could not move. Lily said, "This is my Aunt Melissa. Melissa, this is Eddie, my boyfriend." Melissa stared at me without blinking. I'm not exaggerating when I say I did not know which one of us looked more shocked. Melissa spoke first. She said, without taking her eyes off me, that we already knew each other. Lily turned to her and frowned, then looked at me. She asked what that meant, asked how, asked from where. She was still smiling a little at first, like maybe there was some harmless explanation. I tried to answer, but the words jammed up somewhere between my chest and my mouth. I was too stunned, and Melissa just said it. She told Lily that she and I had lived together for 2 years a long time ago. That was the moment I watched the whole mood of the day break. Lily looked at me with this wide, disbelieving expression that I still remember too clearly. Not anger first. Shock. She asked if it was true. She asked why I had never told her. I finally managed to say that I had no idea Melissa was her aunt, that I was just as blindsided as she was. All of that was true. Still, truth does not always help when it arrives in the worst possible order. A couple of Melissa's relatives recognized me after that. One guy I had met years before did a double take and laughed in disbelief. An older woman squinted at me, then said my name like she was pulling it out of a drawer she had not opened in a decade. Every one of those moments made the situation feel stranger and heavier. The worst part was that nobody had done anything wrong. There was no cheating, no overlap, no secret affair. Melissa and I had been over for nearly 15 years. We had not spoken in ages. After we split, I moved on. She moved on. She got married, had 2 kids, got divorced. I had 2 other relationships after her, before I ever met Lily. On paper, it was a bizarre coincidence and nothing more. But people do not react to these things on paper. They react with emotion, with discomfort, with images they do not want in their heads. I could see it landing on Lily in real time. The age gap she had already chosen to live with. The fact that I had once lived like a husband with her aunt. The family around us. The embarrassment of hearing it in a backyard with relatives staring. It was too much all at once. She never recovered from that shock for the rest of the afternoon. I tried talking to her quietly a few times, but she stayed distant. She answered in short sentences, did not really look at me, and kept this fixed expression on her face like she was holding herself together by force. At one point, I glanced at Melissa and had the unpleasant feeling that she was studying both of us. Melissa herself did not trigger anything in me emotionally. I did not see her and remember some lost great love. I saw an old chapter that had been closed so long it had gone flat inside me. The shock came from the collision, not the feelings. Still, I had the sense, and maybe this was unfair, that Melissa was not taking it as plainly as I was. There was something in the way she watched me, something hard to name, maybe bitterness, maybe irony, maybe just the same disbelief I felt. I do not know. I only knew that the woman I loved was a few feet away, acting like she no longer knew where to place me in her life. We left the party early. Lily said she was not feeling well and wanted to go home. In the car, she was quiet almost the whole ride. When she finally spoke, it came out in pieces. She said she could not believe it, said it was weird, said she felt sick thinking about it. I kept telling her I had not hidden Melissa from her because there was nothing to hide, that I truly had not known, that it had been a lifetime ago. She nodded once or twice, but it was the kind of nod people give when they hear words without absorbing them. After I dropped her off and drove back to my apartment, I sat in the dark for a long time without turning on the TV. The whole thing felt unreal. Almost 15 years without seeing Melissa. Then suddenly she is my girlfriend's aunt. By Tuesday, things got worse. Melissa sent me a friend request. I saw her name on my screen and just stared at it. Then I saw the message she had attached. She said she found my profile through Lily's friend list and wrote that the whole thing was some coincidence, wasn't it? Then she added that maybe coincidence was too nice a word. Maybe it was a cruel joke from fate. That line bothered me more than it should have. I wrote back politely, mostly because ignoring it completely felt like it could create another problem. I said no, I definitely had not seen any of this coming. She answered almost immediately, said again that fate could be vicious, said she still could not believe I was dating Lily. I did not know what to do with that. The last thing I wanted was any kind of renewed contact with Melissa. I was in love with Lily. I had no interest in revisiting anything from 15 years earlier, but the wording in Melissa's messages rubbed me wrong. Cruel joke. Fate. It felt like she was assigning meaning to something I wanted desperately to treat as meaningless bad luck. And while all that was happening, Lily started changing with me. Not in one dramatic scene, in small ways first. She stopped waiting for lunch if our timing was off. Her texts got shorter. She looked distracted when we were together, like half her mind was somewhere else running the same ugly loop over and over. I asked if she was okay, and she would say yes too quickly. A few days later, she finally admitted it was still messing with her. She said she was sorry, but she was not handling it well. I told her I understood she was shocked, but this did not change what we were. She looked down and said maybe it changed more than I thought. That scared me more than anything else had up to that point. Because once a person starts saying maybe, they are already halfway toward leaving. I tried to be patient. Then I could not stand it anymore and asked if her family was saying things. She hesitated long enough that I got my answer before she opened her mouth. Yes, they were. Her mother had spoken with Melissa. The situation had become a topic. I asked what exactly people were saying. Lily said some of them thought the whole thing was too strange, that it made them uncomfortable. I said uncomfortable was one thing, but what did that have to do with us now? She did not answer right away. Then she said there was another issue, and even before she explained, I felt the floor start moving under me. Her mother, after talking with Melissa, had started wondering whether maybe I approached Lily in the first place because of Melissa somehow. I actually thought I'd heard her wrong. I asked her to repeat it. She did, quieter this time. They thought maybe on some level I had gotten close to Lily because she was Melissa's niece. It was insane, completely insane. I told her that right away. I said I did not know Melissa was related to her, had not seen Melissa in about 15 years, had zero reason to connect her aunt's first name to a woman from my past, and if I had wanted anything to do with Melissa, I would not have spent months building a relationship with Lily in complete ignorance. Lily said she knew that logically. That word made me feel sick, because logic is what people hide behind when their emotions are already pulling them somewhere else. I told her to look at the timeline, told her to think about our lunches, our first date, the fact that she brought me into her family, the fact that I had been nothing but serious with her. Told her I loved her. Her eyes filled a little, which should have comforted me but did not. She said this was hard for her too. She said everything at home had gotten tense. Her mother was upset. Her aunt was talking. The whole family seemed thrown off by it, and she did not know how to hold on to us while feeling like every room in her own house had turned heavy. She said she kept picturing me with Melissa, which made her feel terrible and angry at the same time. She said she hated that she could not just turn it off. There are situations where you can fight another man, another lie, another clear enemy. This was worse. It was disgust with no villain she could safely blame, so it spread onto whoever was closest, onto me. A few days after that, she asked to talk in person after work. I knew before we sat down that it was going to be bad. We met at a small park a couple blocks from the office. Early evening, cloudy sky, wet bench from a rain shower that had passed an hour earlier. She stayed standing for a while, arms folded, then finally sat. She said she had thought about it constantly since the party. She said she did not know how to deal with it and did not think the pressure at home was going to stop anytime soon. Then she looked straight at me, and I could tell she had already made up her mind before I arrived. She said maybe it was better if we took some time apart. I told her no immediately, not angrily, more like panic. I said I did not want time apart. I said I loved her. I said this was a horrible reason to lose something real. I reminded her that I had not lied, not cheated, not hidden some ongoing connection. I had a past. Everybody does. She started crying then, which made it worse, because when someone cries while leaving you, you know they are not doing it lightly. They are doing it because they believe leaving hurts less than staying. She said she had already decided, said maybe in the long run it would be better for everyone. That word landed like an insult, even though I knew she did not mean it that way. I did not care about everyone. I cared about her, about us. I tried everything I could think of, reason, patience, emotion. I told her she was letting a dead part of my life poison a living part of hers. I told her I could not accept losing her over a coincidence. I asked her to give it time without ending us. She just kept crying and shaking her head. By the time she stood up to leave, I felt like something had been torn out of me. She walked away anyway. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't, because even after she pulled back, I could still feel that something remained between us. In the hallway at work, when our paths crossed by accident, there was always a look, quick, guarded, but there. Sometimes she would leave for lunch later than usual to avoid me. Sometimes she would come back early. Sometimes I would catch sight of her turning the corner and feel my whole chest tighten before I could stop it. And Melissa kept messaging, not every day, not enough to look crazy if someone checked, but enough to stay present. Once she said maybe we should meet sometime and talk properly, since life had clearly dragged us back into each other's orbit for a reason. I told her no, politely but clearly. I said there was no reason to reopen anything, and that it would only complicate matters more. That was true, but it was not the whole truth. The whole truth was that I blamed her. Maybe not rationally, maybe not fairly, but I did. Not because she had once been part of my life, but because every time she spoke about fate or meaning or reconnecting, I felt her turning something random into something loaded, and the loaded version was exactly what had cost me Lily. I knew Melissa had not forced Lily to leave me by herself. Lily made that choice. Her family added pressure. The images in Lily's mind did what logic could not undo. I understood all that. Still, blame needs somewhere to go. Mine kept landing on Melissa. Meanwhile, the one thing I wanted was slipping farther away every week. Lily stopped meeting my eyes for long. She found reasons to stay busy. If we were ever alone for a second in the elevator lobby, the air between us felt packed with everything we were not saying. I would think maybe this was the moment. Maybe she would finally soften. Then the elevator would arrive, or somebody else would walk in. Or she would say she had to get back upstairs, and I would be left standing there with nothing but the look she had given me. I went home and stared at my phone, reread old texts, replayed the party in my head, thought about all the ways one afternoon could have gone differently. It was useless thinking, but heartbreak makes useless thoughts feel like work. Some nights, I almost convinced myself I still had a chance. Other nights, I felt foolish for hoping. What I could not shake was this hard, ugly sense that I had lost the best thing that had happened to me in years because of a past that was not even alive anymore. A past I had not hidden, only failed to mention because it never occurred to me that it would matter. A past that had somehow reached forward and pulled the woman I loved out of my life. And the worst part was that she still worked down the hall. I could hear her laugh sometimes from the elevator bank before I saw her. That was enough to ruin an entire day. I told myself the clean thing to do was back off and wait. That lasted maybe 4 days. After that, I started building my schedule around the possibility of seeing Lily without making it obvious. I got coffee earlier, took lunch later, slowed down near the elevator if I heard voices in the hall. It was humiliating, and I knew it, but heartbreak turns grown men into people they would not respect under normal conditions. I never chased her or cornered her. That was my line. Whatever panic I felt, I was not going to become the kind of man who ignored her discomfort because I was desperate. Still, hope survives on scraps. A glance that lasted too long. A hello that sounded softer than the day before. The fact that she still wore the silver bracelet I had given her. Maybe it meant nothing. When you are losing somebody, tiny details become evidence because the big evidence is all against you. Work became a blur. I handled payroll issues, reviewed reports, answered emails, did everything I was supposed to do, but my mind kept circling the same questions. Was she really done? Was her family pushing harder than she admitted? Was Melissa still talking? Was there one thing I could say that would cut through all of it, or had the moment for that already passed? Around then, Melissa sent another message. She said she hoped I was okay, and that maybe we deserved a chance to talk face to face, clear the air, and stop acting like the past had to poison the present. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it. Another part wanted to tell her exactly what I thought, which was that any contact between us would only make things worse. I ended up replying with one sentence. I said there was nothing to clear up, and meeting was a bad idea. She answered a few minutes later. She asked if I really thought avoiding reality was helping anyone. That phrasing got under my skin. Avoiding reality. As if I was the one inventing drama. As if her reaching into my life after 15 years was some honest act of maturity and not a giant problem for me. I did not answer. The next morning, Lily and I ended up alone by the elevators for the first time in days. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from sleeping badly. I asked how she was. She said fine automatically, then admitted she was trying to get through the week. I should have left it there. Instead, I asked if there was any chance we could talk properly, somewhere outside the office, without her family in her ear, and without all this pressure hanging over us. She looked at the floor, then back at me. For 1 second, I thought she was going to say yes. She said she did not think talking was helping. Then the elevator doors opened and she got in without looking at me again. That was the first moment I understood I was not just fighting a misunderstanding. I was fighting disgust, family pressure, embarrassment, and something harder to beat than anger. Once somebody cannot unsee a picture in their head, logic starts losing every round. I tried to stay away after that. I really did. But another week passed, and Lily sent me a message late on a Saturday night asking if I was awake. My hand shook when I saw her name. I told her yes. She asked if we could talk on the phone. I stepped outside my apartment to take the call. She sounded fragile from the first word. She said she was sorry for reaching out so late. She said she had been missing me and hating herself for it at the same time. Then she started crying so quietly, I almost missed it. I asked what happened. She said her mother and aunt had been talking again after dinner. Not a screaming fight, nothing like that. Just one of those family conversations people think are private until they realize the walls are thin. Lily had heard enough to know that Melissa believed my relationship with Lily had never been clean in an emotional sense. Not physically, emotionally. Melissa apparently thought I had unresolved feelings the whole time, even if I did not know Lily was related to her. I said that was insane. Lily said she knew it sounded insane, but hearing it from her own aunt had shaken her, because Melissa was speaking with total confidence. Like she knew me in a way Lily never could. That sentence hit like a punch. It was not just my past anymore, it was my credibility. I told Lily the truth. Melissa and I had ended years ago for reasons that had nothing to do with some tragic, unfinished love story. We had grown bitter, tired, wrong for each other. There had been no secret longing, no frozen torch I carried through the years. If Melissa was saying otherwise, then she was either rewriting history or enjoying the power she suddenly had over this situation. Lily went quiet at that. Then she said that was exactly what scared her. Not because she believed I wanted Melissa back, but because the whole thing felt contaminated now. That was her word. Contaminated. Like every memory we had built was getting coated in somebody else's version of me, and she did not know how to clean it off. I asked if she still loved me. She cried harder before she answered. She said yes. That should have given me hope. Instead, it made everything worse because loving me and choosing me had become two different things. I asked her to meet me the next day. Somewhere neutral. Just us. No family. No office. She hesitated long enough that I thought she would refuse. Then she said 1 hour. Coffee shop. Sunday afternoon. I did not sleep much that night. The coffee shop was crowded when I got there, all steamed windows and people hunched over laptops. Lily arrived wearing a blue sweater I had seen a dozen times, and the sight of something so familiar nearly undid me. We sat at a corner table, and for a minute neither of us said much. Then she asked what Melissa had been like when we lived together. I understood immediately that this mattered more than any speech I had prepared. She was not asking out of curiosity. She was trying to measure the version of me her aunt kept describing against the man sitting in front of her. So I told the truth, without decorating it. I said Melissa and I were never some epic romance that got torn apart by bad timing. We moved in together thinking we were building something stable. Instead, the relationship turned heavy. She liked control. I liked peace. At first that sounds manageable, it is not. We argued, then avoided each other, then performed normalcy in front of other people. By the end we were sharing space more than a life. We stayed together too long because leaving felt like failure. Lily listened without interrupting. I told her I had not spoken to Melissa in years. I told her I did not think about Melissa when I met Lily, or during any lunch or on our first date, or when I first told her I loved her. If Melissa was acting like there had been some unresolved thread, that thread existed only because she was pulling on it now. Lily wrapped both hands around her cup. She said part of her believed me completely, but another part was still struggling with the image of me in her aunt's house all those years ago. In family photos, she had probably seen without ever noticing who I was. That was the first time I realized there might actually be pictures. I asked if Melissa had done anything else besides talk to her mother. Lily said there had been comments, little ones, questions about whether I still looked at Melissa strangely at the party, remarks about how life has a way of bringing people back together, things vague enough to deny later, pointed enough to leave poison behind. I felt something cold settle in me. For weeks, I had been treating this like a tragedy of coincidence, something nobody caused and nobody could help. But if Melissa was pushing the family's discomfort instead of calming it, then coincidence had become a weapon in somebody's hands. I told Lily one thing very clearly. I said I would never meet Melissa privately, never entertain any suggestion of reconnecting, and never lie to her to keep the peace. That was my line. She asked if Melissa had invited me to meet. I said yes. Her whole face changed, not because she was shocked I refused, because I had not told her before. She asked why. I said because I was trying not to dump more garbage into her head while she was already overwhelmed. The second I said it, I knew that answer was only half right. I had also been afraid the invitation itself would sound incriminating. Lily did not yell. She just looked wounded and asked when. I told her it had happened after the breakup, more than once, and that I had turned Melissa down every time. I expected her to leave. Instead, she asked to see the messages. That put me against a moral line I had been carrying since this started. Part of me wanted to keep private messages private. Another part knew refusing would look terrible. I unlocked my phone and handed it over. Lily scrolled in silence. Melissa had not been explicit. That would have made things simple, but the pattern was there. Messages about fate. Messages about talking properly. Messages that framed our history like unfinished business instead of dead history. And beneath those, my replies, brief, closed, consistent. When Lily looked up again, her expression had sharpened. She said she needed time. Under different circumstances, those words would have crushed me. That day they sounded almost hopeful, because time was at least different from goodbye. The next week at work something shifted. Not everything. Not enough. But enough that I felt it. She no longer dodged every hallway crossing. Once during lunch, she actually stopped and asked if I had eaten yet. Another day she thanked me for sending her a report one of our departments needed, and the thank you had a steadiness to it that had been gone for weeks. Then came the setback. Melissa messaged me Thursday night asking why I was suddenly so cold when we clearly had more to talk about than either of us admitted. She followed that with a line saying that maybe Lily was too young to understand the kind of bond some people never fully break. I read that message 3 times. Then I did something I had resisted from the start. I screenshotted everything. Not just that message, all of them in order. I hated the idea of using private messages as evidence. Hated how fast real life can turn into documentation when trust collapses. But this had crossed from discomfort into interference. I sent the screenshots to Lily with one sentence. I said I was sorry, but she deserved the full picture. She did not answer that night. The next morning, she asked if we could meet after work. We walked to a small plaza behind the office. She looked angry in a way I had not seen before, and strangely that helped. Anger meant direction. She asked if Melissa had always been like this. I said yes and no. Yes, in the sense that Melissa liked emotional control and could make herself the center of a situation without appearing to. No, in the sense that I had not dealt with her in 15 years and could not claim to know exactly who she had become. I told Lily that during our relationship, Melissa often treated ambiguity like power. She rarely said the ugliest thing outright. She preferred suggestion, implication, tone, enough to destabilize you, not enough to pin down cleanly. Lily nodded, jaw tight. She said she had confronted her mother that morning about the messages. Her mother got defensive immediately and said Melissa was only trying to protect her. That phrase made Lily furious. Protect her from what exactly? A man who had done nothing but date her honestly, until a coincidence handed her family a reason to panic. Then Lily said Melissa had texted her after that argument, claiming she never intended to come between us and only wanted everyone to face the truth about how complicated this was. There it was again, the truth. As if complexity itself gave her the right to keep pressing. Lily asked me whether I thought Melissa wanted me back. I answered carefully. I said I did not know if she wanted me specifically or just wanted the emotional authority of being the woman from before. For some people, that kind of position matters. The person who came first. The person whose history carries weight in a room. I said I could not prove what she wanted, only what she was doing. Lily looked away and said she could prove at least one thing now. Melissa was not helping. She was feeding it. I asked what she wanted to do. She said she needed to confront Melissa directly, without her mother there. I told her I would not tell her how to handle her family. No matter how hurt I was not going to become the older boyfriend who inserts himself into a family war and makes everything look worse. But I said if she chose to confront Melissa, she should do it based on facts, not emotion, messages, timing, specific comments, patterns. That was decision 1 for Lily. Decision 2 came 2 days later. She met Melissa alone. I did not go. I did not wait outside. I did not even know exactly when the meeting happened until afterward, because I had promised myself I would not manage her through it like a lawyer. All I knew was that Sunday evening she texted me asking if I could talk. Her voice sounded different this time, harder, sadder, more awake. She said Melissa denied wanting me, denied trying to break us apart on purpose, denied almost everything except the messages, which she dismissed as harmless. According to Melissa, she was only trying to process a bizarre situation and felt that Lily was being naive about how emotionally layered it all was. That sounded exactly like the kind of thing Melissa would say. Then, Lily told me the part that mattered. During the conversation, Melissa let one sentence slip. She said she just could not stand the idea of watching me build a future with Lily after everything Melissa and I had been through. The second she said it, she tried to soften it, but it was too late. There are sentences that explain an entire month. That was one of them. Lily said she asked Melissa what that meant, and Melissa started crying. She said it was painful, said it was humiliating, said she felt replaced in some strange symbolic way and wished none of this had happened. She did not admit she was trying to ruin us. She did not need to. I asked what Lily said. She said she told Melissa that pain did not give her the right to contaminate somebody else's relationship. That was decision 2. Decision 3 came the following week, and it cost Lily something real. Her mother wanted her to keep distance from me until the family settled. Lily said no. Her mother accused her of choosing a man over her family's peace. Lily said she was choosing her own mind. The argument got bad enough that Lily left the house and slept at a friend's apartment that night. When she told me that, I felt 2 things at once: hope and shame. Hope, because she was finally standing on her own judgment. Shame, because standing on her own judgment was costing her home. I offered to get involved somehow. Maybe speak to her father, maybe at least explain my side to someone older and calmer in the family. She refused immediately. She said if I stepped in now, everything would get recast as manipulation. She was probably right. A few days later, she agreed to see me properly for the first time since the breakup. Not at a coffee shop, not in a rushed hallway. She asked me to meet her at a park by the canal where we had once walked after dinner early in our relationship. The place mattered. That scared me. I got there first. The water was dull grey under the evening sky. When Lily finally came into view, I felt the strange jolt of recognizing somebody familiar after months of half losing them. She stood in front of me for a moment without speaking. Then she said She had been unfair. I started to answer, but she held up a hand and kept going. She said the shock had been real. Her disgust had been real too, and she was not going to lie about that. But instead of sitting with it and separating feeling from truth, she had let other people do the thinking for her. She had let shame decide. Family pressure, her aunt's version, her mother's anxiety, all of it. She said she was sorry. That word did something violent inside me. Relief can hurt when it arrives late. I told her I was not innocent in all of it either. I should have told her about Melissa's messages sooner. I should have understood faster that this was no longer just weird. It was being pushed into something worse. She nodded. Then she asked if I still wanted this, still wanted her, after everything. I said yes so quickly it came out rough. Yes, I wanted this. Yes, I wanted her. Yes, even after everything. She cried again, but softer this time. Then she stepped into me and held on. That should have been the perfect ending. It was not. Because life does not stop being messy just because two people choose each other again. Getting back together did not erase the family problem. Her mother was still unhappy. Melissa went cold and offended, which honestly I preferred to her messages. Even at work, Lily and I kept things quiet for a while, because we both knew one bad rumor could turn private pain into entertainment. We rebuilt slowly. Lunch once a week again, then more. Go movie at my place, with her going home early because she still was not ready to tell everyone she was seeing me again. Then one evening she stayed longer than planned, fell asleep with her head on my chest while some terrible action movie played in the background, and I remember lying there in the dark thinking this was the first moment of peace I had felt in months. Still, the damage left marks. Her father, who had stayed mostly quiet through the whole disaster, eventually told her mother they were making it worse than it needed to be. That helped more than anything. Not because he took my side loudly, but because he interrupted the idea that Melissa's feelings should run the house. Melissa herself became the final test. About 3 weeks after Lily and I began quietly seeing each other again, Melissa sent me one last message. It was short. She said she guessed I had made my choice and hoped I understood that some choices leave damage behind. I read it once and did not feel temptation or anger, just fatigue. Then I blocked her. That was my moral line and also my decision. I had been tempted once or twice to answer more harshly, to tell her exactly what I thought she had done, but I knew where that road led. More words, more ambiguity, more room for her to twist pain into meaning. So I said nothing. Here silence was refusal. Refusal to be dragged back, refusal to participate in a triangle somebody else seemed determined to build. Lily's mother found out eventually that we were back together. There was another argument, smaller than before but painful. Lily held firm. She said she was done letting other people confuse discomfort with danger. That line sounded like her, not me, and hearing that mattered. Months later, things were calmer, though never exactly normal. At family gatherings, I was not invited to all of them, and that was fine. I did not need to prove anything by forcing my presence into every room. The first time I saw Melissa again after blocking her was at a larger birthday dinner for Lily's grandmother. There were enough people there that avoidance was easy. We exchanged one brief nod from opposite ends of the room. Nothing more. That was all I wanted. No private conversation, no dramatic showdown. Real life rarely gives those, and when it does, they usually help less than people imagine. The bigger truth was this. What nearly destroyed Lily and me was not some great love triangle. It was pressure, shame, suggestion. The power family stories have when they get repeated with certainty. The power old intimacy carries when other people can see it, but not feel its emptiness. Lily and I lasted because eventually she chose what she knew over what she was being told. And I lasted because I chose not to become ugly in return. That does not sound heroic. It mostly felt miserable while I was living it. There were nights I wanted to drive to Melissa's house and demand she stop. Nights I wanted to march into Lily's parents' living room and defend myself like I was on trial. Nights I wanted to blow the whole thing open and force everyone to say out loud what they were implying. I did none of that. Not because I am especially wise. Because I knew one more loud move from me would have confirmed every bad story they were halfway ready to believe. So I waited. I told the truth when it mattered. I documented what needed documenting. I refused what needed refusing. And when Lily finally opened the door again, I walked through it carefully, not like a man trying to win, but like a man trying not to lose himself. Even now, when I think back on that year, the detail that stays with me is not the birthday party itself. It is the tray. Melissa standing there holding a tray of hot dogs and paper napkins while the whole thing landed on all of us at once. Such an ordinary object, such a stupid domestic little thing. And somehow, that was the image that split one life from another. For a while I thought fate had done something cruel to me. Maybe it had. But fate was not the whole story. People still make choices inside coincidence. Melissa made hers. Lily made hers. I made mine. That was the part I could live with. Because the truth is, if I could erase my past completely, I still do not know whether I should. This one was expensive. It taught me that unfinished history is dangerous even when you think it is dead. It taught me that family discomfort can become its own kind of weapon. It taught me that love is not proven when things are easy and private. It gets proven when other voices start crowding it, and two people have to decide whether they still know what is theirs. I used to think the cruelest part of this story was meeting the wrong woman from my past in the right woman's family. I do not think that anymore. The cruelest part was how close I came to losing Lily, not because of what I had done, but because other people got to narrate me before she finally did it for herself. And the only reason I can tell this now without feeling that same panic in my chest is that in the end, she looked at me with her own eyes. That was the difference. That was everything. What would you do in this situation? Be honest, or did this remind you of someone? Tell me in the comments. And if this made you think about your own relationship, I left something in the description that can help you build something stronger. Subscribe if you want more stories like this every day, and share this with someone who needs to hear this story.